Does your car ride like crap and it's a sloppy mess all over the road? Or does it ride so rough it vibrates the teeth out of your mouth? Then this video is for you. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Atlas Bell and I'm Glenn McGowan. Today we're going to be talking about what's the correct bushing you should be using for your car. So there's roughly 3 bushing categories that I'm going to get into today. So we're going to go over each one, pros and cons, and what you should be really running in your car, whether it's a street car, whether it's a daily driver, or if it's a race car. So let's get into it. So the bushings I'm talking about are suspension mounting, engine mounting, drivetrain mounting. So you have 3 categories, which are rubber, which is pretty much a factory bushing. The second is polyurethane, which is more of a performance street car bushing. And the third is heim joints and or solid mounting, which is more race car, track car usage. Now, we're gonna go over each one in detail to see the pros and cons and what you should be running on your car. So the first bushing, rubber, is your factory bushing in every single car that's made, mainly because it's a very comfortable ride. Now, do these bushings fail after a certain amount of time? Yes, they get cracked, they get worn out, they get sloppy. That's kind of normal. So when you go and get your car service and they say, oh, you need all new control arm bushings, that's the rubber bushings, and they just pop them out and they put all new factory ones back in, and it works. Why? Because it's comfortable, it's inexpensive, and it just does the job. If you're driving a basic car every day, putting a ton of miles on it, you want rubber bushings in that bad boy, because if you run something else, it's gonna ride like crap, and nobody wants that if you're a daily commuting every day. So factory bushing, it works for your daily driver. It's perfect for that. And I would say even in applications that are you're building like an old muscle car or something like that, run rubber bushings in the body mounts and polyurethane on the suspension mounts. So it's still a little bit of a comfortable ride. So rubber is pretty much comfort. That's kind of what you're gonna go after with a rubber bushing. So daily driver, run your rubber bushings in there, kind of a no-brainer. Yes, they're gonna get cracked, they're gonna get worn. It's called deflection. There's more movement in a rubber bushing than a polyurethane or a heim joint. So you're gonna have that kind of stuff. But with a daily driver, it doesn't matter. Your track car, yes, you don't want that kind of movement in the suspension and stuff like that when you're hitting turns and all that. But for a daily driver, rubber is kind of where it's at. I got a couple examples here. So this is just a rubber shifter bushing, and you can actually see and move this around because it has a lot of play. They have an upgraded version of this, which is polyurethane. This is a BMW shifter bushing that there is no movement in there. So this is more of a comfort shifting type of situation where you would put a urethane one in there for more of a performance shifting with less movement in there. And that's the theory behind upgrading from rubber, is because you want less movement. That's it. The downfall of rubber is the cracking through time. And I don't know if we can zoom in here enough. This is a control arm with a rubber bushing in here, traditional rubber bushing, and it is cracked everywhere and just gets dry rotted and falls apart. So that's what's going to happen with your rubber bushings. Okay, number 2, polyurethane bushings. So this is probably the most popular upgrade that people do to their performance car or their street car. So this pretty much eliminates a lot of the deflections from a rubber bushing because they are a lot harder than rubber. They typically come in multiple pieces like this, so you can kind of push them into your suspension component. They have a metal sleeve in the center of it. So you can get these for your suspension, your drivetrain, all that kind of stuff like that. I had recently just done my own control arms on the 85 Corvette right here, and that is a pretty good upgrade for this car because I wanted to handle a little bit better. I had the original bushings in there, so doing that is going to make this thing handle a lot better. So really inexpensive to get. So you know, by now they make kits for almost every car. So the only couple downfalls that I can think of are if you don't use the lubricant that usually comes with a kit, or you can buy extra like this, they can squeak after a while. And the other thing would be if you run polyurethane not only on your suspension, which will improve your handling, if you run that on your drivetrain, engine, transmission, and possibly your differential, you're gonna feel a lot more of the vibrations than you did with the rubber mount. So you will improve, you know, the actual applied power of your engine. It won't move as much, stuff like that, but you are going to feel more vibrations and all that kind of stuff like that. So you got to take that into consideration if you're going to put poly bushings on every single thing in the car that you hop in and drive every single day. I mean, it would be completely fine, but you'd have to understand that you're going to be feeling more of the road, and you're going to be feeling all the engine vibrations, every shift, all that kind of stuff. So on a track, it makes sense, but daily driving, maybe not so much. But besides that, it is really cheap for the money. There is something called a Del-A-Loom bushing or Del-A-Loom bushing, which is essentially a Delrin liner in like an aluminum casing that has like a grease fitting in it. And they're a lot more expensive, but they last a lot longer, and you can actually service them by, you know, adding grease to them through time, which is probably a better version of the polyurethane. But for the money, polyurethane is probably the way to go, in my opinion. You just grab a set, throw them in, and then you're on the road. Okay, last but not least, heim joints and solid mounting. It's typically found on race cars, mainly because you want to take all that power and apply it to the ground and get the job done with no movement, no deflection, all that kind of stuff. So solid mounts, meaning engine plates, the engine's essentially bolted right to the chassis, all that kind of stuff. So that's what you're going to find mainly in race cars. Is it good for the street application? No, but I'm sure it's fun to drive race cars on the street. Why not? I have a heim joint here, like that, just to give you an idea what that looks like for suspension components and stuff like that. Mainly track applications. This has like a little bit of movement in there for your suspension articulation, but no deflection, no movement there. So obviously you can feel everything with these, but quarter mile, stuff like that, it doesn't really matter because you're trying to see how fast you can go, not if you're gonna spill your coffee while you're driving. So that's pretty much the applications where you're gonna find that. Now, do some people run heim joint suspension on their cars, you know, and drive them every day? Maybe, I don't know, but I don't think it's probably the best setup. If you drive it every day, it probably rides like crap where you're like 18. But besides that, that's pretty much the applications for that and the differences there. So when it comes to setting up your car, it's pretty much preference. So can you run polyurethane on the suspension and rubber on your drivetrain? Absolutely. So it all comes down to exactly what do you want out of your car. If you have an old muscle car, maybe running rubber mounts on the body instead of polyurethane and then poly on the suspension, that might be the best setup just for more of a comfort thing. So you kind of have to pick what you want and then go down that road, and or just change it out if you don't like it. A lot of people just are like poly everything because they think it's the best, but they start not liking driving the car anymore because it just rides like crap. So take those things into consideration of ultimately what you want to do. Polyurethane is probably like the best way. It's kind of right in the middle there for a car that you want to take and kick around and have some fun with. So besides that, enjoy the video, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.